I think we should start.
So interesting. Because it's pretty fun.
Okay, if you could all take your seats and grab a cup of coffee or whatever, I think it's about time to start.
Yeah,
Please do. Good to
whatever
see
you want.
Good, we'll put you to work. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm COBRO Chair Paul Ganster, and I'm delighted to welcome everyone for our September meeting. And before we move on, I wanted to just note that there is simultaneous interpretation available. And I would like to ask our interpreter, Diana Orozco, to briefly explain how the feature works and, if possible, provide the information in the chat. Diana, are you there?
Good morning. This is Elizabeth. I'm one of the interpreters. Announcement from interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, world, and select English as your language. If you are joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you are in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, el globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Thank you.
Thank you. For COBRO members, I'd like to review the process and guidelines for conducting the meeting in Zoom, as we do have colleagues online. For members of COBRO, when you would like to speak, please turn on your camera or raise your hand by opening the participants panel on the Zoom toolbar and clicking raise hand at the bottom. Once we see you, we'll recognize you at that time. In addition, please note that you are not automatically muted by the meeting organizer, so you'll need to mute yourself and unmute yourself. For public members who would like to speak on an item, please use the raise hand icon in the Zoom toolbar, and you'll be called on, and you'll be unmuted by SANDAG staff. If you call in by phone and would like to comment on an item, please press *9 on your phone. To unmute yourself, you may need to enter *6 to unmute yourself. After your comments, you will be muted by the SANDAG staff. All comments, whether emailed or live, will be part of today's meeting record. Are there any questions about the process? Okay, let's move on to item 1 of the agenda, welcome and self-introductions. And we'll start by going around the table here at SANDAG headquarters. So state your name, the organization you represent, and then if you have maybe 1 or 2 priorities for the border that concern you, just mention them very quickly, because this is something we'll be talking about a little bit more today. But just to get an initial sounding, I think would be helpful. So let's start with James Clark to my left.
So James Clark, California Bio Associates, assistant to Wika.
Nathan Owens, UC San Diego Division of Extended Studies.
Priorities, I guess probably reducing wait times at the border. That's a usual one. But I think also if it falls within the scope of whatever we decide to do today going forward, certainly the high cost of living, which also has trickle-down effects on where people end up living and then how they get around. So that would be my comments.
Good morning, Joaquin Loken, Executive Director for the Smart Border Coalition. And as far as priorities for the year would be, of course, advancing completion of Otay Mesa East, but as well as advancing the CBP technology agenda. There's a lot of things that are on the cookbook that CBP has up their sleeves, and we need fast and implementation of those. One thing is to have, of course, a budget to purchase technology. Another one is a budget to implement technology. So the timelines keep getting longer and longer and longer, whether it's to purchase or to implement or to train. So a way to streamline the process of identifying, training, and implementing would be a priority for me.
Thank you. Alejandra?
Good morning, Alejandra Miriteran with the Otay Mesa Chamber of Commerce. Our priorities are similar: efficient border crossings, also Otay East, of course, but also in terms of projects, reservation system at the Otay Mesa Commercial Port of Entry. We think it's one of those projects that works really well for supply chains and works really well for the environment, and it's sort of a win-win for everyone in our communities.
Good morning, I'm Hector Vanegas. I am part of SANDAG staff, so I'm not going to declare my priorities, but for sure is to continue having your support for COBRO.
And I'm Paul Gantz for San Diego State, and I have too many priorities to mention right now, but some may come out later. Nonetheless, I think there's a lot of work to be done about redefining border priorities for the San Diego-Tijuana region to improve quality of life, hopefully.
Hi, everybody. Mariela Rodriguez, Senior Regional Planner with SANDAG, and my priority is to efficiently be able to help the group to continue in years to come. So.
Hi, everybody. Evan Funk, Regional Planner 1 at SANDAG. My goals are to support COBRO and just all the initiatives as well.
Hi, my name is Danielle Coachman, also at SANDAG. I'm the Manager of Strategic Partnerships. I'm interested in projects that really enhance that air quality or improve air quality in the border region. So looking at improving efficiency for goods moving across the border, things like the appointment system, and then also improving multimodal access, so alternative transportation options across the border, and lots of stakeholders, and it makes border projects really complicated to deliver. So I love, focusing on those problems to solve.
Good morning, Miriam Mendoza with the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. Several priorities, but border efficiency and water and energy, including the zero emission vehicle transition and making sure that it doesn't interrupt supply chains.
Okay, my name is Hernando Duran. I'm from Tijuana Innovadora, Tijuana Verde. I'm the assistant of Claudia. And one problem that I think we have to achieve it's the pollution of the Tijuana River. Today is 1,000 days that the Imperial Beach is closed. And I think we have to, both cities, both countries have to gather in order to solve that ancient problem. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Gabriela Muñoz Melendez from el Colegio de la Frontera Norte. Lately, most priorities are regarding the changes that are coming with the new government in Mexico, if any.
Good morning. My name is Claudia Basurto. I'm coming from Tijuana Innovadora. And I got two two objectives right now. It's support transcultural citizen-driven initiatives and enhance cross-border artistic and cultural activities.
Let's turn to people online. Could you call on them, please?
Yeah. Perhaps we can start with Jose Marquez. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Jose?
Oh, thank you. For us, I'm representing the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans. I think it's delivering the Otay Mesa East project and also looking at innovative ways to manage the border as a system through ITS and also supporting active transportation and transit modalities at the border.
Thanks. Ben Moore?
Hi there, Ben Moore. I'm with the U.S. Department of State, currently detailed to the Office of Mayor Todd Gloria. I think for this forum, interested to hear about the good work that you all are doing, and particularly about the international connectivity and some of the relationships between organizations here on the U.S. side and then on the Mexico side, and how we can potentially leverage resources of the U.S. Department of State to support those efforts.
Thank you. The representative from City of Imperial Beach.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Reina Ayala. I'm the city planner for the City of Imperial Beach, and my priority is the cross-border pollution issues.
Thank you. Should ask them to repeat it. Could you repeat that? It was a little difficult to hear.
Sure, no problem. Good morning, everyone. My name is Reina Ayala. I'm the city planner for the City of Imperial Beach, and our main priority are the cross-border pollution issues.
Okay. Thank you. Andrea Hoff?
Hello. My name is Andrea Hoff, Senior Regional Planner at SANDAG, Project Manager for Otay Mesa East and Harbor 2.0. At the border, my priorities as SANDAG staff are to begin construction on Otay Mesa East, ease the transition to zero emission freight, and improve mobility and quality of life in the border region. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacqueline Reynoso? Jacqueline? Okay. We can move on to Jessica Norton. Jessica. Roger Sanchez?
Yes, good morning. This is Roger Sanchez with Caltrans Planning. Just real quick, some priorities of mine. I represent obviously Caltrans District 11 San Diego Border Program. Really quick, assisting our local agencies, local partners with the environmental challenges at our border region. And then the other item would be binational improvements for the goods movements at our border region. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one person who's called in a phone number. If they're able to speak. 820. Perhaps not. And the last one is Toll Operations Center or TOC? No? Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. That's it then. I was watching. Oh, and I think Zach has his hand up. I forgot. Yeah, Zach.
Thanks. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Zach Fernandez, planner at SANDAG. Echo all the priorities already kind of mentioned here, definitely from an infrastructure perspective, making the border more efficient and realizing those economic and environmental benefits. But maybe something more specific is maybe a focus or priority focus on our youth and ensuring that our binational youth have the ability to kind of navigate to varying systems with ease.
Thank you. I think that's everyone.
Thank you very much and welcome to everyone. Before we move into item 2, which is our working session, I wanted to make a few preliminary comments. First, I think we're at an interesting juncture in the evolution of our region, of SANDAG, and also of COBRO. With restructuring of a couple of years ago, COBRO is no longer a formal Brown Act committee, which has its pluses and minuses. On the positive side, it means that we can meet in Tijuana. We can not worry so much about a quorum and official votes and so on and so forth. But at the same time, I think it poses challenges in how we can best interact with the rest of SANDAG and take our ideas up the food chain, as it were. It's also a time, I think, for COBRO to think about a reset in its activities and direction after what was a long pause of activities during COVID. Although we had online meetings, things didn't go particularly well, and we were in almost in stasis, I think. Also, I think part and parcel of this, to speak in language that people in the private sector will understand, maybe it's time to rebrand COBRO and see how we present ourselves to the larger SANDAG community and the larger San Diego community, because there are a number of comments that we've received, and we'll get into it later today, about there are other organizations in the community that work on border issues, and we need to consider how to do that. Also, I think part of this, and a critical part of it, is the web presence of COBRO. We've practically disappeared from the SANDAG website, and it takes a lot of work to find us, and I still haven't been able to find a list of members online, plus all of the good work that's been done in the past, much of which is still relevant, is not there and easily accessible. So I think this is something that we need to talk about and to put pressure where we can to return to a reasonable web presence, particularly listing members of COBRO, the organizations they represent, and that sort of thing. Finally, I think we need to talk about leadership going forward. We've had a transition in staff from Hector to Mariela, and we're very, very appreciative of Hector tilting with windmills for many, many years, but moving COBRO forward and keeping SANDAG's focus on critical border issues. And Mariela is getting on board to take up those efforts and move us as we move in newly defined directions. Also, I think in terms of leadership, we need to start thinking about what the structure should be. Traditionally, we've had a chair who hasn't really been elected, has just kind of appeared and been appointed, and I think that needs to be discussed, and we might want to see who might be interested in serving as chair moving forward. Also, better leadership, I think, would include a vice chair or an assistant chair, whatever we want to call that person, who would be able to help with management activities when necessary and take over meetings in the absence of the chair. In the past, traditionally, we've had technically chair. I've been chair, and a co-chair was the Consul General of Mexico in San Diego. And that's kind of fallen by the wayside. So we need to think about what we should do in terms of leadership, or if we need other changes moving forward. So those are some of the contextual things that we need to think about today, and we'll have a chance to discuss that in the breakout sessions and then when we reconvene. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mariela.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction of the item and the different issues that we're going to be covering today, but also in the following two meetings, which we'll share throughout the presentation today. So I want this is the agenda of the meeting today, and this is the only item that we're going to be covering. The first part of the agenda is going to be the survey background, which you all have had an opportunity to return all the feedback to Hector back in March. Then we're going to provide a brief summary of the feedback received. And then from there, we're going to break out into groups to discuss some of these issues that Paul was referring to. And then the task for purpose discussion, which Paul is going to lead. And then the COBRO agenda topics and priorities, that's going to be a discussion that we'll have. And then the 2025 look ahead. So a little bit of background on the survey. Back in March of this year, Hector sent a survey to the COBRO membership, which aimed to identify opportunities for more effective work. Also, we were trying to gather input to guide the committee's future direction, and we solicit feedback on the most relevant topics, whether they were addressed or not in the meetings for the committee. So members were also asked to assess the different committees' strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. And I'm sure you all saw when you walked in all the boards around the boardroom, and that's going to be part of the breakout rooms discussions, or breakout group discussions. So there were 7 responses that we received out of the 82 members of the committee, and that's one of the reasons. So, you know, as we move on into the future, we are trying to meet the region needs, and we wanted to provide an opportunity to most members to actually have a say, which is why we are designating this meeting as a working meeting so that you all can provide your feedback and input. So the survey, we asked members, as I said, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges to improve COBRO. And there were some recommendations also that we asked to improve it. And this is a summary. The questions, as you may recall, were open-ended. So some people wrote a lot. So we couldn't like put every single response. So we try to find themes on the responses and summarize those there. So because many of you were not able to provide a response, then we decided to do the session. And we hope that you all are willing and eager to share your thoughts and recommendations. And so we're going to be splitting in 4 groups. It's going to take a little bit of time. We need to figure out also if there are members online. If there are members online, please raise your hand so that we can identify you. And Zach, who is also online from SANDAG, is going to be kind of moderating that group to make sure that you guys have good discussions. Hector is gonna be in the strengths board. Evan is gonna be in the weaknesses and opportunities. I'm gonna be helping you guys there, and Danielle is gonna be helping Zach since he can't write the comments to put on the board, so that after the breakout groups, we can come back and somebody from the COBRO membership can explain to the bigger group what you guys were discussing, if there was something missing from the initial responses that we got from all the members. So, so that's what we are doing right now. Yes.
It's gonna have to promote everybody, so if you can let them know that are in the lobby that they're gonna get promoted, so Zach can
Okay.
To panelists?
Yes.
Yeah. That way Zach can talk. Sorry, you're good.
So I think group 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Where do we go?
You're 1, 2, 3. 1,
Group
2,
one,
dos.
Okay.
Right there, witnesses.
Where's that?
Are there any members online?
Maybe we can do kind of a
Hi, so sorry. I was on another call, but had this on. I am ready to participate if that's still an option.
Hi, Jacqueline. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, great. No worries. We haven't started the breakout session hasn't really started yet. I think actually, we all have the ability to unmute. For those who have accepted the Zoom administrator's invite to be a panelist, you can just unmute at will. It looks like there's a couple more folks still in the attendee lobby.
Okay, I did see the notice,
Okay.
but I wasn't able to get to it on time because I was taking notes for another meeting.
I can hear you. Let me ask Andrea. Andrea, can you hear Jacqueline as well, or is it just me?
Yes, I can hear both of you loud and clear.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, I think this will work then.
This is Jim O'Callaghan. This is Jim O'Callaghan. I dialed in. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect.
This is Roger. I hope folks can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, Roger.
Hi, Zach. And I see a few other folks, Jose, Zach, I see you folks. Anyways, I wasn't sure. I just saw a screen say breakout session. I wasn't sure if we were in the groups yet. Thanks.
Yeah, this isn't how it usually is set up, but I think this will work since it's not a ton of people. Hopefully the folks in the room aren't having to hear us in the background too. But let me share my screen. That way we have something to reference. I'm just here to kind of help move things along. But this breakout session and what they're doing in the room is just breakout group discussion. Let me get my screen up so you can see what we're kind of the topic that we're hoping to talk through. Okay, let me know if you can see the slide.
We can see it.
Cool. Okay, cool. So I head nod. Yeah, like Mariela was kind of discussing, and Chair Ganser was also discussing kind of the situation we kind of find ourselves in and looking to find, a stronger identity, maybe purpose for the group. The folks in the room are covering the first three groups, the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. Us online, I think they asked us to focus on the challenges. So the very last column of thoughts. I don't think we have to limit ourselves to just the challenges. If you all have thoughts, generally speaking, about any of this, SWOT analysis, feel free to just kind of unmute and share. But I think I'm just here to kind of take notes and see if folks have any thoughts, I guess, firstly about any general thoughts first, and then maybe afterwards we can focus on the challenges more specifically. Go ahead, Jose.
This is Roger. Just wanted to ask for a clarification on Group 4 challenges. The last item, opposition from the public, it's my understanding, but COBRO is COBRO open to the public, or was it just local agencies, both the US and the Mexican side?
It's open to the public. Any meeting that SANDAG kind of puts on typically has to be available for and accessible to the public. Yeah, we're not a closed door session.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but in the past, did we get a large number of folks from the public attending our COBRO meetings, or maybe it was more like on the lower numbers?
In the time that I've been here and kind of supporting COBRO, I've seen the additional chairs in the room fill up depending on what's on the agenda. We do get, a handful of folks who just pop in, maybe the academic researcher or public service employee, someone from, business community. There is kind of a revolving door of folks who pop into the meetings. It kind of depends on what's on the agenda though.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Jose, feel free to just unmute.
Thank you, Zach. Well, first I appreciate SANDAG for doing this exercise. Sometimes we kind of like on an autopilot and we go to all these meetings or committees and we don't have a chance to like think again, like what's the purpose of this, what we're doing. So I really appreciate that SANDAG's taking the time to take a pause and reconsider like the purpose of this committee. And I would like to just, maybe I'm gonna start throwing a couple of things. Some of the challenge that I see for COBRO is one, I think, is the participation. It used to be like years ago, I'm thinking, and probably it's because of COVID, we had more participation from other, especially from the CBOs, even other government agencies. So I think it will be good if we can start like reaching out to who used to participate in COBRO, or also, and they don't participate anymore, or they attend the meetings once in a while. Another, like, I don't know if it's weakness or challenge. Sometimes I get confused with these exercises, like what is this, what is a weakness, what's a challenge? But one of the things is, even though there's the topics that are there that SANDAG brings to COBRO are very, very, very important, and I've learned a lot just hearing these presentations. I hear it's kind of like, it's more about like, we talk to, and I have actually presented at COBRO. So we talk to you guys, like to the members. It's not a conversation. It's more of a, we're just presenting some updates. We don't get feedback from our members about like right now, what we're doing right now, like the priorities, what like public agencies like SANDAG or Caltrans should be focused on. And I would like to see more of a conversation. So that could be an opportunity and a challenge as well. And including, yeah, and also reaching out, not only reaching out to the stakeholders that haven't participated, but also there's probably other stakeholders that we're not including on both sides of the border. So we might want to revisit the membership of the COBRO and see if we're missing important members that should be invited to this committee.
Sorry, just taking notes. Those are excellent. Does anybody have like comments or thoughts related to the two things Jose brought up, like the maybe, lacking participation from the community groups at the kind of like on the ground level?
This is Roger, and I wanted to kind of just add to Jose, his comment about, obviously some of us have been here, for several years, maybe over a decade, if not more. But we do remember, like Jose was saying, pre-COVID, right? When we were having a lot of the border meetings, including border breakfast, for example, and COBRO in person, right? And I think that to that point, after COVID-19, I think a lot of folks perhaps retired, perhaps left, whether it was SANDAG, Caltrans, ICTC, or maybe some of our local partners and our Mexican partners. Some folks also may have changed jobs, left, retired, whatnot. And, we're not sure, who took over? Did Zach take over? Did Jose take over? What happened to Roger? This and that. And I think, like you folks said, maybe reaching out to those local agencies and asking, hey, so we noticed Mark retired. So is there anybody who is acting or is permanent now at ICTC? Question mark, right? And once we get that information, maybe it was Virginia, maybe it was Jose. And then once we get a hold of that person, that individual, maybe get the email, get the phone number, and reach out to those folks, right? To invite them, right? Hey, we want to restart this COBRO in-person or hybrid meeting. We want to restart these border breakfast meetings or whatnot. So I think maybe that's something we can certainly try and address together. And again, reaching out to our local COBRO members, right? And kind of asking and finding out what happened to some of these folks, because certainly there's been a lot of changes in staff, I think at all agencies. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. Yeah, I think that challenge is true for like any recurring working group or task force or any type of group like this, because it's just the kind of the natural order of things. There's turnover, there's staff change, and maintaining those contacts is always a big challenge.
Hi, Zach. This is Jacqueline. I appreciate everyone's comments. I agree with them all. One thing that came up at the last Binational Forum South County EDC hosted was from Senator Steve Padilla, and I thought, it was a really good point, just in terms of overall institutionalizing processes and or committees or anything that really has to do with review of binational projects, right? And so I think to the extent that COBRO is part of that approach and that institution, right? Whether it begins to formally be connected as like a stakeholder group for planning documents for the border master plan or the regional plan. I don't believe, I try to track board meetings. I don't believe there's, usually a report back at board meetings from COBRO. And remind me again, you know, in terms of, is this like an advisory board or is it a committee? And I know that maybe changes, right, the dynamics and its purpose as it kind of integrates with the overall board structure. But, you know, certainly a good platform, I think, for feedback. And so maybe if it's not clear to presenters up front, you know, when they're presenting information, more of a report out, that it could be utilized as a forum for feedback and, you know, additional input. Back to kind of institutionalizing it, you know, really establishing this as part of maybe a formal stakeholder engagement process for any binational, again, any binational projects. I think, you know, in terms of even reporting out to the public, if it's not done in a more formal way within the board meetings, which are open to the public, and, you know, most committees do report back there, maybe even a simple fact sheet or a newsletter or something to that effect, where it kind of, you know, you create a digital or virtual community as well. And it's a way to be able to push out information in an efficient way. So.
Yeah, you gave me a lot to jot down in notes, all very, very excellent points and pertinent thoughts here. Jose, I saw your hand went up.
Yes, adding to what Jacqueline was mentioning is we have, I didn't know that there was 84 like members of COBRO. But like every time we're going for like federal funding or grants or like state grants, I think we can use this forum like to seek letters of support. So it will be great if we start getting like, hey, COBRO members, we're going for this grant, like that to support like the San Isidro intermodal mobility hub or any other concept, and we will appreciate a letter of support from you. So I think that those type of activities can help make this forum like more interactive, like so people can see like the value of like being part of this committee.
Yeah, I think one thing I've noticed that is a bit lacking is just, you know, any direct feedback or action that COBRO could or would take doesn't seem to be kind of happening. And I think maybe it's structural in the sense that it's not a Brown Act, you know, a designated working group of SANDAG anymore. It doesn't have that direct feedback or input to the Borders Committee, which is, you know, kind of under the Borders purview. The Borders Committee provides the recommendations up to our board of directors, but then below the Borders Committee, kind of feeding insight and feedback to the Borders Committee, there's kind of a gap right now because COBRO isn't a designated working group. Our meetings aren't Brown Act. Our agendas are you know, acted on and filed away, but they're not you know, kind of treated with the same kind of like, yeah, I think you know where I'm going with that, Jose.
Yeah, although I mean, because of the membership of COBRO, you have a lot of expertise, experience, and knowledge to identify issues and also identify solutions, support projects like through letter support, or just identify ways that we can collaborate better, even if it's not like an official committee like Borders.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe SANDAG could use this forum as it's like a tool, like use it as a tool to support a lot of these binational initiatives.
I don't know whose hand went up first, but Roger or Andrea, not sure who wants to unmute.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Roger.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick comment on that, Zach, about whether or not COBRO is, you know, no longer part of the Brown Act. I participated in other regional working tech meetings, right, with the San Diego County or with other cities for, a local development review with planning regarding, Senate bills for development, whatnot, and VMT and all that good stuff. I mean, I was curious, we still have somebody take notes and kind of have not a formal report, but kind of informal summary or feedback platform like Jacqueline was mentioning. Is that something maybe we can do that informally with COBRO? Is that a possibility, or because we're not part of the Brown Act, then we shouldn't be doing that? Thanks.
I mean, I'm just speaking from like my vantage point and my experience, but I don't see any reason why we couldn't be as a group documenting our recommendations or feedback just to, SANDAG at large or the representatives that form SANDAG. I don't see any reason not to. I just don't think, we've been using COBRO to its fullest potential and for like this kind of more action-oriented function that it could be serving.
Yeah, I agree with that, Zach. That there, as I understand it, there's no reason why we can't provide, meeting summaries and act sort of as much as we would like to, or not as a Brown Act body. There's no rules against that. My comment for consideration is how COBRO overlaps or does not overlap with the other working groups. I haven't attended all working group meetings. I know there's a mobility working group, a special needs transportation working group, and a variety of others. And so I'm wondering, it might be helpful for the members and the staff to understand when something should go to both, if they should go to one. I mean, I think that there's a lack of clarity around how the different working groups should or could work together. Almost like kind of like a mapping exercise might be helpful for the members. That's my comment for now. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an important distinction because without COBRO being a designated SANDAG working group, I don't think it would show up on a like process flow chart as it pertains to like getting input from every level of like policy group or working group necessarily. The same way like the mobility working group kind of feeds up to the transportation committee and other committees. It would be different for COBRO in that it's not Brown Act, and we kind of, yeah, there's a kind of a little gap there. At least for me mentally, I think there's like a little bit of a gap between how it actually pushes along specific policy feedback or input.
Got it.
That's kind of, I think that's one of the key, like, not elephants in the room, but one of the things that have kind of driven us to have this conversation as a group. It's like, we have an identity. Well, we obviously have a very broad purview, but we haven't been very action oriented or flexing like this, all this expertise and know-how and representation that we have as a group. We haven't really been flexing it to its potential.
And just to follow on that, it seems to me if we are not bound by Brown Act, and then there might be some disadvantages to the group's ability to provide direct feedback to policy advisory committees, maybe flipping that around and thinking, okay, well, if it's not subject to the Brown Act, then what could we do that other groups don't? And so I'm just sort of reiterating that idea that maybe there's more freedom, and we should leverage that, to Jose's point about using it as a tool. Does COBRO have a jurisdiction, like a boundary? Do we sort of treat it like 60 miles north and south of the border, or?
I mean, I don't think there's been a reason to be that specific. It's more just a forum, and it can be, report out session or a feedback session on anything pertaining to border planning, border infrastructure, just I think any aspect of binational issues can be presented on or discussed.
So I'm keyed in on Reina's comment from Imperial Beach and thinking, this is become and has been a pretty serious issue and continues to be when there's an issue that needs to be solved and there's not a clear path forward how to solve it, perhaps COBRO could be a brainstorming mechanism to find solutions, identify solutions.
Yeah.
Andrea, I'm sorry.
I have and this is, I'm going back to a previous point that I was making. If we want to like also strengthen the participation in this committee, and and since this is not an unofficial committee for SANDAG, can we have like meetings like at the border, like maybe at SBX or Danarota, or maybe a Casa Familiar? I don't know, there's logistics with those kind of things, but I think it will increase our participation, especially for people that are coming from south of the border, because if you're coming from Tijuana or Rosarito or Tecate, I mean, one thing is to cross the border, but the other thing is like you still have to drive like half an hour at least to downtown.
Jose, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to suggest that. I like how Smart Border Coalition rotates their hosting site, right, between Tijuana and San Diego. I think that lends itself certainly to more participation.
Yeah. I mean, and that's good. I think for the Smart Border Coalition, it works well because most of them are private sector. But like I mean, I know for us government folks, it is. I need to get like every time I go down to Tijuana, I need to get like approval from Sacramento. It's not just, but at least just like having a meeting at San Isidro or Otay, so people can be able to have more participation of the locals. Like I don't see like Casa Familiar like participating that much, or other like CBOs from that work at the border. Or I mean, do you have some participation from Tijuana? Like Tijuana Novador is always there, but there's other like other associations that might be able to participate if the meetings were just at San Isidro instead of like downtown San Diego. I mean, that's just an idea, and we don't have to have the meetings all the time down there, but it's just an idea.
Yeah, I'm getting a note from the folks in the room to start to wrap up, and also see if anybody wants to volunteer to report out a couple of the thoughts that we just discussed.
I think Mariela asked for a member of COBRO to be the report out.
I just wanted to add as final thoughts. I'm not necessarily raising my hand to report out, but to add to Andrea's comment about issuing recommendations kind of for major issues active today. And I thought of kind of breaking that out into buckets like policy, funding, permitting, maybe environmental, or that could be under permitting, but just kind of approaching it in a systemic way with real solutions and recommendations that we could push forward on other similar projects.
I like it. Yeah, having a better system helps us be more efficient and more focused, as opposed to just general conversations and it feeling like just reporting out. Any member of COBRO feel like reporting out when we get back to the main room? Okay. I took copious notes. I don't mind doing it, but yeah, since this is your all's forum, your group wanted to extend that offer, but I'm happy to do it too. Okay. Anyone else with kind of last thoughts before we jump back into the main room?
Zach, I have one last thought. There's a lot of talk about CBP, and they're a huge player in the border region. I'm not sure if it would be appropriate to either invite them, or they do have a port working group meeting, have someone from COBRO that is aware of the happenings of CBP or new developments, and then report out at COBRO. Just trying to think of that loose end that could be tied.
Okay, we're going back to group. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Danielle. Thank you, everybody, for the great discussion. I think we just sit tight and let them bring us back into the room or open the mics in the room again.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No, thank you.
Hello. So thank you everybody for a great group discussion. What we're gonna do now is each group has designated somebody to be the spokesperson for each group and share out with the rest of the COBRO committee what was discussed, and then you can all have a conversation as a big group and see if there was anything missing, if you have different ideas on what the other groups were discussing. So Hector, your team goes first.
Thank you very much. So, do you want me to go in English or Spanish?
It doesn't matter. We have translation. Oh, but here people on the floor, they don't have the. Oh, you do? You guys, whatever is easier for you. If you're gonna do it in Spanish, then I recommend for the English speaking people in the boardroom to grab the earpieces.
So our
So that you
production
can-
team is letting us know that we have this for
Yeah.
interpretation. So if you
Yeah.
need it, so this is going to be in Spanish.
Ok, perfecto. Ok, entonces voy a ir en español. Leo también las survey response que hay del pasado, las que subieron o nada más las que nosotros sumamos.
Las que ustedes determinaron, porque puedo avanzar. Bueno,
Ok, perfecto.
momento.
Entonces,
funciona.
el primero que pondría sería que SANDAG escucha a la comunidad. Por escuchar a la comunidad, eso hace que escuchen a la comunidad fronteriza. Además, otra de las fortalezas es que por ser parte de SANDAG, pues está muy justificado con investigación y con encuestas. Y eso hace que nuestros proyectos sean muchísimo más fuertes por estar basados en los deseos de la ciudadanía. Tenemos muy buena locación, muy buen horario y es muy fácil acceder, sobre todo con el sello del parking. Pues ya tenemos muchos años funcionando y esto también es una fortaleza del grupo. Somos un grupo que confiamos unos en otros y eso permite que abiertamente expongamos nuestras fortalezas o nuestras necesidades. El hecho de ser miembros de COBRO nos da, pues nos da prestigio y nos da presencia dentro de la comunidad en nuestro país. Somos un grupo bilingüe, bicultural y transcultural, y eso es una gran fortaleza. También otra fortaleza es que tenemos el soporte y las facilidades que otorga COBRO, como esto de poder traducir, que uno puede hablar en español o en inglés, y que además tenemos el apoyo para hacer el Zoom y hacer los grupos. Y pues creo que esas serían todas.
Muchas gracias. Yep. Is there anything that the rest of the members have to add to the strengths that they just covered and discussed, either here or online? Is that all covered?
Mariola, if I can add, is that we reviewed the strengths that are posted in the presentation and we agree. And based on those is that we added this. Like, for example, the integration with SANDAG and the Borders Committee is important because of all the wealth of information that the committee has access. And also the diverse membership is that we have this feeling of trust. So we were just adding to the ones that are over there. So if you have different more, we can add.
No? Anybody online has their hands on? No? Okay, we can move on to group 2. Joaquin, if you want to take it away.
Thank you, Mariela. So group 2, we were talking about the weaknesses of the group. And just to relay the survey responses, so the group can listen, was the inconsistent participation, lack of community groups and local stakeholders, need for collaboration with other groups rather than duplicating efforts. These were the survey responses. What we came down with was of course a dwindling size of participation from previous years, and also since we're a binational group, there has been little or no meetings in Tijuana across the border when there's opportunity to work with city governments or places like Implan or Colev, that we could probably have a meeting over there. That way we can attract more of the cross-border organizations and stakeholders. Of course, travel across the border for agencies gets harder and harder these days, especially when you have a lack of clarity and mission. So I guess our major finding here was a lack of clarity on the mission and the scope of COBRO, and how does it differentiate, or how does it work within the SANDAG org chart? When you have SANDAG, you have Borders Committee, and you have COBRO. How do those play in together? How does majorly, how does COBRO work within the Borders Committee? How do each other play off of each other? How do they benefit each other? Lack of, okay, no. Of course, we mentioned it earlier, Dr. Ganster mentioned it, that COBRO has kind of disappeared institutionally within the SANDAG website. That there's not a lot of like the memory of the work and the agendas within the website. I don't know if they've updated that, but from months ago they hadn't. And of course, the lack of position within the SANDAG context. That's what I was talking about earlier, about how does it work into the org chart, right? How does SANDAG work? How does the Borders Committee work? And how does the COBRO committee work? So it all came down, I guess, to just the lack of clarity, the why of the group. Why does it exist? And of course, people don't know why it exists. You get the dwindling size, you get the lack of participation. So those were the major findings from group
Right.
2.
Those are great points. And I'm glad that you brought up how, COBRO fits within the organization and the different groups, because that was a conversation that also occurred in the opportunities. So I think Nathan will be able to speak a little bit about that.
We found a
and the
lot of
discussion that
a lot of opportunities talking about the weaknesses. So
Yeah.
we wrote them down.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else has anything to add to the list of weaknesses? The rest of the group? Nope. All right. So, Nate.
Okay, I will do my best to try and organize our thoughts here. As far as opportunities, building off of what was just said about the weakness around the why this group exists, assuming that gets sorted out, I think we do have an opportunity, given we are within SANDAG structure, to have the opportunity to present and move forward some projects, possibly to the Borders Committee, which then can move it to the full board, or maybe even directly to the full board, assuming we sort out some of the bigger picture why issues. What projects and how would need to be sorted out. But again, there's an opportunity perhaps for members of COBRO to weigh in and as a collective group, give our priorities to certain projects, whether those are existing projects that have been identified but not fully sort of backed, or if they are, because we're made up of stakeholders, there may be issues that are come up, real time, where these are a high priority. They're not factored into the RTP or the master plan or whatever. So maybe they need to be looked at more carefully. And then this group can help move that forward within SANDAG. Participation also came up in terms of opportunities. There certainly are opportunities to increase participation. Again, I think it's going to depend upon the why, which will drive that participation. But it was mentioned that this task force, this group, has the opportunity to have a more balanced perspective if we get more Mexican participation, because that may not necessarily be represented in other parts of SANDAG, that Mexican perspective to certain projects. There was the suggestion that looking at participation, we should reassess the membership, which I think we're going to do at some point, and see who is actively participating, who is less so. There was also a suggestion, should we continue to offer Zoom as an option for people to participate? If we make it in person only, will that sort of drive more active participation? But also with the acknowledgement that not everybody can attend every meeting, and sometimes due to the nature of the border, it may be difficult to attend in person, but something to consider in terms of the format. And then, sorry. Yeah. I don't know if I covered everything, maybe. Try again. We had a sort of a wide-ranging discussion. I think part of the opportunities really depend upon sort of sorting out some of the other issues. If once we know the why, then that may define some of the opportunities. But I think given that we are in SANDAG, we do have the opportunity to provide advice to Borders Committee or the broader board. That's something we could take advantage of. Try and move specific projects forward that maybe don't have much momentum behind them. if I missed something, please weigh in.
You know, just to add, I think we have just to add to what Nathan said is when, like, as a group, if we come together and reach a consensus on a project, I mean, I think we should narrow down our focus to programs and projects that are SANDAG related. I mean, we have so many other different groups where we are addressing other projects. And I know Armando brought up the whole issue about like bus crossings with CBP. I mean, maybe we tackle that at the CBP working group, but we should focus COBRO on projects that are in the purview of SANDAG so we could advance them and make an impact. And that way we filter it down and we narrow the scope and we maybe can achieve more.
And one last thing. There was also at that point that came up about the bus crossing, there could also be opportunities to carve out within our meeting agendas, sort of a Q&A amongst members. If one member's run into a particular issue, maybe another member has a solution or can refer somebody to a resource that has a solution. So it is a platform where we can share that information amongst ourselves, not necessarily just moving projects up.
I would just add to what Alejandro said, and I think it makes sense to focus COBRO on what SANDAG is doing, or should be doing, because I think we need to be able to nudge the institution onto topics that have been neglected.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add from my perspective that one of the opportunities this committee has is the timing, because SANDAG has a new CEO, and also the two countries are going to have new administrations in this year, new federal administrations, in the case of Tijuana, also municipal administrations. And in short time, in months, the new free trade agreement, USMCA, is going to be reviewed. If this committee has ideas on how to take advantage, that could be a good opportunity for discussions. Of course, I understand what Alejandra is saying, but I think the wealth of understanding of this group and the membership can also contribute by discovering opportunities that our region can take advantage of.
That's a really good point. Thank you, Hector. Anybody else has additional comments? Yes, go ahead.
I think it could be important that everybody knows what the Borders Committee does and how COBRO can interface with the Borders Committee, because I don't know, and it would be helpful that we're not duplicating efforts, but they're also complementary efforts.
So it sounds to me that you have to have a presentation to educate the COBRO committee.
Yes, we need to be careful, because something that we try is not to say that COBRO report to Borders Committee, because that will make this committee a Brown Act group, and all of you will need to submit your 700 forms and open all your documents. But you as members or you as individuals can always bring topics to the Borders Committee. What we do in SANDAG, we listen to this group, and then we bring your input to the Borders Committee. Like, for example, when we presented for discussion items for Otay Mesa East, port of entry, or items for the freight strategy, we listen to the input of this group, and then we incorporate those. But if you want to come and provide feedback to the Borders Committee, we need to be very careful of not falling into a category of a Brown Act group. That's why we've been careful with that.
Can I mention one thing? And I don't mean to jump ahead
yes,
on Danielle's report out from Group 4, but along that exact kind of line, there was a question about if, regardless of our Brown Act status, could we still document our, group feedback or even policy recommendations, regardless of it being Brown Act, and have staff kind of share that up the chain, if you will?
I'm glad that you brought that up, Zach, because that was also part of the conversation that we had in the opportunities group on how we can communicate the recommendations and the projects or the priorities that COBRO sets forth to other groups. So how would that work? And that's something that we need to look into. Because I don't have the answer, but yeah.
No, we can find a way to have periodic reports or so, maybe through staff or I don't know, but we will need to work well with our legal counsel of not putting you in trouble.
Right. So if nobody else has any other comments on the opportunities, we're going to hand it over to Danielle, who's going to share the challenges discussion.
So I'm reporting out on challenges. I like that I get to be Vanna White here. And a lot of these topics are things that we've all talked about in all of our boards. I think that, we wanted to be focused a lot more on solutions than the challenges. So identifying that the challenge with participation, we spent quite a bit of time talking about that. We talked about how participation seems to be down because of since COVID. And speculated that, with a lot of retirements, a lot of staff turnover at the different organizations, that was kind of contributing to some of the decrease in participation. And so, discuss doing outreach to past members to see, why they're not coming, try to get them back, outreach to people, to agencies that their participants left and try to find who the right person is and really, just do some cold calling and getting people to come that are going to be valuable to the group, not just anybody. We also talked about the meeting location as well, because it can be challenging, for people that are coming across the border. We noted that participation from the other side of the border was down even more and specific. And so were there ways if we could move our meeting location to be closer to the border, that would be of benefit from a participation standpoint. We had the big Brown Act discussion that we were just having. We talked about how we could informally report out to the board. So I guess Mariela has some work to do to figure out how we solve that problem. And then also, how do we interact with the different working groups at SANDAG? So we have the mobility working group, the military working group. And so as we're thinking about the items that go to each of those working groups, how do we make the determination about what we want to discuss here at COBRO? And then finally, what are the benefits of not being a Brown Act? So I know that, there are some as far as being a little bit looser with agenda and stuff like that. But, since we are not a Brown Act committee, are there things that we can take advantage of to our benefit and thinking about that? And then the last thing that we talked about was, the fact that it had seemed for the last couple of years that there was a lot of kind of information and sharing out and less purpose for the actual committee task force. And so wanted to identify key topics that we would be able to develop solutions and recommendations. We've heard that kind of a lot in this report out. Looking at promoting conversation and discussion among the members. So items that are really going to be, require, participation from people to really solve those challenging problems. And then also looking at, when we're seeking grants, can we leverage COBRO as far as letters of support? But this was not talked about in the group because I was just trying to take notes. I can kind of dominate conversations when that happens. So I was trying to let people talk. Even further, as we talk about identifying those projects, identifying those priority areas, and they match up with different grants from different sources, we can kind of start doing that mix and match thing about this is what we want to advance as a group, and this is how we might be able to fund it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else has anything to add? Those were really great discussion points, and I'm looking forward to working on trying to unlock some of these issues so that we can be more effective as a group. Nothing else? Okay, we'll move on. Kendall, I got advance. Okay, great, thanks. So at this point, I'm gonna pass the presentation over to our chair who is gonna be kind of moderating and leading the group into talking about the task for purposes and the membership discussion.
Thanks, and thanks for everyone's input. I think the report out groups were excellent and really raised the right issues and good comments. We'll just have to figure out how to digest all of that and how to use it. But perhaps in this discussion, somewhat we can take advantage of that previous discussion. The issue of the purpose of the task force and membership is what we need to look at now. In terms of purpose, what we have here, I think makes sense, serves as a task force to facilitate a better understanding of binational border-related issues and needs of the Baja California border region. That's pretty general, which is good and bad. It's negative because it's so general, but it's positive because it allows some wiggle room to focus on things that are of particular interest to COBRO members and things that are especially timely. Maybe one question we need to chat a little bit about is who is our audience? Who do we report to? Who do we communicate to? Does COBRO really address the communities of the Baja California border region? Do we address primarily the community of San Diego, Tijuana and San Diego, or SANDAG, or all of the above? And I think that's important to think about, just because if we try to fix the entire border, that gets pretty complicated. So I think sort of our geographical focus is helpful. The needs of the Baja California border region are basically, I think, the needs of San Diego-Tijuana border region, with some minor differences. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I think we should change the purpose. I mean, to be more specific, like you're mentioning, maybe something like serve as a task force to advance binational border-related projects that are within the purview of SANDAG. I mean, that's very specific. I mean, I think that would be helpful, I think.
And you would say projects, or should we say activities or interaction, or?
I'm still hiding behind the board, but if it's okay, if I could.
Come and join us here.
I just got so comfy back there and there's kind of stuff. But you know, I really like that. I also think we could get a little more specific too, because what does serving as a task force exactly mean? Are we trying to, you know, build support among stakeholders? I think we could list a few things that we would want to do as a task force around those projects within the SANDAG peer review.
Nando?
Yes, I think of the San Diego Tijuana region, because California is so big and Mexicali, it's not, it's very different from the problems of here.
But if we're looking at projects that are in the purview of SANDAG, that will extend out, well, not, to-
Because they have
not to me,
SANDAG.
not to Mexicali, but farther East County.
Oh, no, is it Imperial Valley?
No.
There's another organization.
Yeah, Scott.
Yeah.
Right.
So it makes sense for San Diego Tijuana.
Right, but the Tijuana municipality doesn't, how far east does that extend?
Well, we're really talking about the county of San Diego and Tijuana, Tecate, and Rosarito. I mean, that's
Metro.
that's sort of the effective northern coastal Baja California.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I wouldn't say California because California is, San Francisco. So I would say San Diego County, which is SANDAG, main jurisdiction. But I would include Baja California with all the municipalities. But because if we're talking about the trolley, cross-border trolley, or we're talking about the ferries coming from Ensenada, and so we have like 7 cities in Baja California, and we have a ton, 20 something in San Diego County. So I would say San Diego, Baja California region.
Or something like the greater San Diego, Baja California region, which implies a focus, but it could be a wider view and include the hoped for ferry to Ensenada, which seems to be moving forward.
Yeah, but we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen then.
Yeah, okay. There is a hand raised online. Evan, can you unmute Jose Marquez? Thanks.
Hello. I think I agree with we should keep it like just San Diego and Baja California region. Imperial County has a Imperial Mexicali Binational Alliance that serves is not the same as COBRO, but it serves a similar purpose. So I think we should just keep it to San Diego, Baja California region because not Tijuana, because we also border Tecate. And so we can just keep it like that. And I don't know if we want to say that in the SANDAG's peer review, because I mean, if it's going back to the purpose of this committee, I know that SANDAG helps and leads this committee, but sometimes there's a lot of issues they're not on. It's not like there's a responsibility of SANDAG to lead or to address, but so I don't know if we want to keep it a little bit open.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can see your point about considering all of Baja California, but honestly, all the problems with water desalination, agricultural industries in San Quintin, in San Felipe, or the problem of is that the scope of, I don't know. I can see the importance of maybe thinking about Ensenada and all the tourism, exactly, but further that, we haven't even characterized these 2 new municipalities in Baja California. So we'll recommend that we sort of slow down here and consider this deeply, because the problems that are in the new municipalities are huge. And I don't think that SANDAG could say even something about that at this point. Thanks.
Yes, Claudia.
Yes, Claudia.
Yeah, that will be important because what I was trying to follow is what what's your name? I'm sorry, Alejandra. I'm sorry. 20 years to knowing you. So because what we're trying to put on the table is that because we're part of SANDAG, then we have to follow, the challenges that SANDAG has. So that's why I think that related to SANDAG objectives, then we could include the Baja California on those topics, not agriculture or I don't know, all the problems that we have in Baja California, which are huge. So what I was thinking is just related to SANDAG. That's what I thought. But if that somebody say in the Zoom that we're going to include other projects that are not part of SANDAG, then that will be important to say it in this table. How far, how huge are we going to do our purpose or responsibilities?
So I would like to invite Jose. Jose, would you like to elaborate a little bit more on your point? Because I think I understand where you're going, but I don't want to speak on your behalf. So
Yeah. So I think there's two types of items that we usually discuss at this meetings. Some of these items are led either by SANDAG or Caltrans or jointly with Caltrans. And yes, but other items, and there's a lot of items that I think is good for the committee to be aware of that also border related that so I don't think we should limit to those. I would just limit ourselves to items that are in the purview of SANDAG. So maybe like in the agenda, we can make a note like this is an information purpose only item. If it's like, I mean, I was thinking about like about a year ago, we heard about a presentation from this consortium about developing zero emission stations in both Imperial County and in Southern California, that it was a tribal effort. So that's, I found it really, very, very interesting. And we heard about like a lot of different, I mean, like the World Capital, the design World Capital and different items that are not specifically in the purview of SANDAG, but so, I mean, it's good to like, to know what's going on. And so that's, and of course, we're going to have our core, our projects, like the San Isidro intermodal facility, the Caliente mobility facility, like Ota Mesa East, or in like, or different, like or bicycle projects at the border, things like that. So I think it's two levels, so two different types of topics that we should be addressing at these meetings.
Okay, I think that's been a good discussion, and we'll, as we move forward, kind of drafting all of this for your consideration.
and
we'll take that
I just
into
want to add, if you don't mind, if you guys have any ideas after the meeting, feel free to email me your thoughts on, you know, how to refine the purpose and the responsibilities of the group. But certainly we'll incorporate your guys' comments today and bring a little bit more refined purpose and responsibilities at the next meeting.
Good. And
yeah, just a quick question. So can we get like a draft and then we can provide comments on the purpose? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do that and make sure. I mean, the purpose of this exercise is really to enable COBRO members to provide significant input into the topics we're dealing with. So there'll be a bit of back and forth, which will, it takes more time, but I think it improves the outcome. So moving ahead to the agenda topics for COBRO, there's an interesting note here that says in 2005, COBRO established main topics to serve as the regional agenda, which balance between where people live and where they work, transportation, water, energy supply, environment, economic development, national security. And it seems nearly 20 years later, those topics are still quite relevant. I'm not sure what we need to do with this, but perhaps comment, are there things missing that we need to consider and then also talk about priority as well. And I think that's going to be an ongoing task of COBRO, is to prioritize things. But picking up on some comments that surfaced earlier, none of the 2005 topics really look at the cultural, social impacts of border activities. And traditionally, that's not really received a lot of attention from COBRO, nor in the whole set of government structures that look at the border region. It's been development, as though somehow development will bring improved cultural, social improvement or equity within the region. Something that's always kind of been out there but never addressed directly is quality of life. And that's really a tough issue to deal with, because it's a pretty vague concept. You really have to get to the point where you identify specific indicators so you can measure it. And it's like sustainable development as well, which both governments have subscribed to for many years, but we never quite implement. So what other topics can you think of that we need to give some thought and priority to that aren't on the list? And let's just take a few minutes and see what occurs to you. Nathan?
Well, since we mentioned earlier air quality, that's not on there. You could look at a public health component, depending on how broadly you want to define things. I would also be curious, again, how these topics map with the broader SANDAG topics. If we're going down the path of aligning more closely to what's within the purview of SANDAG, it would be good to know. But I typically see SANDAG as being anything that touches even directly or indirectly with transportation infrastructure. So that covers quite a bit, right? Your quality of life. If there's congested freeways or long wait times at the border, you're probably not going to have a good quality of life if you're stuck in traffic all the time. So it could be very broad or could be very specific.
Well, since transportation is the major generator of air pollution in our region, the connection is very clear and very direct. But that's a good thought, and how that relates back to SANDAG's mission. And I like the fact that you mentioned public health, because ultimately, I think when we talk about environmental quality along the U.S.-Mexico border, we tend not to think simply in terms of ecology and ecosystems and birds and bees, but I think we're very strongly focused on human health impacts. And that, of course, relates very directly to SANDAG. Yes, Alejandra.
Maybe add supply chains as I guess it would be a subgroup of economic development, but I think that would be important. Maybe drop national security, not that it's not important, but it's not within our purview.
Yeah, unfortunately, national security has become such a political buzzword that no one knows what it means.
Hector, you had your hand up.
No, I just have some ideas, because I think a lot of the topics that we've been talking lately can fit into this general themes. But one that we don't address very often is the issue of health and education. And we just passed the pandemic and we never address these issues of health. But I don't know if that is going to be a topic of SANDAG. But if you want to, at least identify these are important. I don't know, you remember Laurie Gatrell when she presented this transportation equity study, how the border is impacted, the health of the border community. And now with AB 6117 or 17, is also addressing these issues of health at the border, the pollution of the Tijuana River estuary and the ocean waters. But one that I want to put also in your minds is what Jose Marquez from Caltrans has been pushing is these discussions on innovative concepts, and also Daniel is here, that this committee can help us to identify innovative concepts in general. I don't want to say only transportation or connectivity, but perhaps to have discussions, help us on that. And I don't know if Jose would be happy that this committee jumps on those.
Right, thank you.
James?
I think we should keep security just drop national, because security on both sides of the border are major issues and a major
Energy
concern.
security, water security, et cetera.
Physical security.
Yeah, and sure, okay.
Security for your business, security for your life, your family, are in jeopardy on both sides of the border, right?
Yeah.
If you remember, this topic was included right after Department of Homeland Security was created, and that was an important topic in 2005. The merge of INS and U.S. Customs Service into one big agency, and border security became a priority, so we couldn't ignore that. That's why it's there.
A couple of related things that occur is that one thing COBRO might consider undertaking is to better communicate what the impact of the border is on all of San Diego County. And that's because I think many residents of San Diego County and local governments don't think the border is important. And as a result, San Diego County does not speak with one voice on important border issues when it should be. It does kind of, I think the latest sewage crisis, it finally got enough people on board that there's kind of a unified response, but that takes extraordinary efforts. A related and
I think
border impacts on all of San Diego County are things that SANDAG probably has data for, or should be able to provide bits and pieces of data so that the importance of the border can be expressed in real terms that people throughout the county can understand. And a related element, James, when you talk about security, is crime. The popular image of crime in San Diego is that it's incredibly unsafe, yet SANDAG maintains a database on crime in the region, and I think sort of expressing that in comparison to other U.S. cities would really shock people who purvey the concept that San Diego County is unsafe. So maybe that's something to get positive data out that COBRO can help facilitate. And one topic that didn't appear in 2005 but is implicit is funding. What's a source of funding for border projects, infrastructure, and so on? And we've never been able to solve that. I'm sure people that have been thinking about the border for a while have seen a number of ways to try to come up with funding, but we're stuck with this incredibly slow and reactive process. In the Tijuana sewage on the US side anyway, is a perfect example of the failure of government to respond quickly to crises. Anyway, other.
There's a comment online or somebody
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
wishes to speak.
The online first.
Yeah, Jose. I think he has his hand up.
Jose, do you have your hand up?
Yes. A couple other topics, and by the way, we cannot see the slides for the people that are participating in the via Zoom. We're not able to see the slides, but a couple of topics are environmental justice, climate adaptation, and also emergency coordination. And I've been thinking about like what's going to happen when we have a major earthquake, and or you just name it, like or like remember like when like 15 years ago we had all these fires. So that how is that going to disrupt the border? I mean, especially so I will I know it's important to talk about national security, but also like emergency and like how do we deal with and coordinate with these type of emergencies? And I don't think we have done a good job on that.
Yeah, good. Great idea, Jose. Thanks for that. And clearly, our region has not prepared for binational emergencies. In my own opinion, is governance failed during COVID, and that's shared by a lot of other people. But when we get the big earthquake, then we're really going to see a failure to coordinate across the border. Thanks. Let's see. We're just Gabriela.
Are migration issues behind this or included in this national security topic, or are not considered at all? Migration. In 2005, there was no Central American caravans, and there was no the Haiti flows that came from Brazil. I mean, it may be an issue that is not considered here, okay? But migration is here.
Yeah, good suggestion. Migration, in some ways, is not a border issue, but the impacts are all in the border, at least now. So, okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Those are good ideas, and we'll somehow pull all of that together so we can.
Maybe just as part of the history, that item was discussed on that opportunity, but the Borders Committee held a special session to discuss immigration issues, and they decided that it was not part of the tray for SANDAG on that occasion. So if this will be a change, it will represent a change in instruction.
Okay,
Let's go ahead, Claudia. And this is the last comment because we're running out of time and we have a couple more.
Yeah,
things to talk
so
about.
I will ask to include innovation, and because we can bring to the table different technology or different innovative governance models that do not have to be in the Brown Act, but could be as a collective of transborder people. And because as Paul said, during COVID, we didn't have this governance. We have to work like, who do you want to go? Who do you want to go to Washington? No? But if we have one, like innovative governance, just citizenship, that could be really great. So that will be one, innovation, which would include technology, governance, and I don't know, artificial intelligence. We don't know what's going on and what's going to be tomorrow. And my other question is, when we say transportation, we're talking about all the transportation could be? It's mobility that includes bicycles and motorcycles and ferries and trolley, everything?
Traditionally, yes.
Okay, perfect.
And over the years, COBRO has devoted a lot of time and many sessions to discussing particularly bicycles and connections at the border to move people and so on. So I think, and that's been a major source of concern of COBRO members.
Of course.
The difficulty of ordinary people to get around and cross the border.
Yeah, because when people is walking, I don't know if that's mobility or transportation, just to make sure in translation, I just get hooked in translation.
Yeah, I think it's included. Okay, we need, in the couple of minutes left, we have some look ahead topics proposed for 2025, potentially to be on the COBRO agenda. So you might want to provide some feedback on that. Let us know what you think. And then our next meeting is October 2nd, and we'll continue. Pardon?
I just wanted to add, if there are any topics beyond the ones that are listed here that members would like to bring up, because your organizations are, working on something that is related to the topics and issues that we have been talking about, feel free to contact me and let me know.
Okay, good. On October 2nd, we'll continue the discussion that we started today and hopefully narrow down and focus a little bit more. But in the meantime, we'll get some materials out to you summarizing today's meeting so that hopefully on the 2nd, we can pull things together in terms of developing a work plan for the next year or two. With the proviso that we can't predict the future and things will always occur that we'll need to be responsive to. And one possible presentation is also on the World Design Capital, San Diego, Tijuana. Is that still moving forward?
Yes, that is still moving forward. They had a longer program prepared for the group, and after some conversations with the organizers, we narrowed it down to these two presentations, and they're going to have the opportunity to provide the opportunity for the group to have some input and feedback and some discussion on what they're going to be presenting. So it's not just an informational item.
And there's some progress on the November 6th meeting as well. And to revisit the San Isidro Transit Station, get an update, a critical issue for our region because so many people try to move through there every day with greater or less success. And also the District 11 effort on heavy-duty zero-emission vehicle charging station site assessment. I mean, electrification of the border vehicle fleet is really important in the region, and we're going to hear a lot more about it in the future. And there have been lots of concerns expressed about the impact of electrification on supply chains, on binational business. So it's a key topic. So with that, I think we need to bring the meeting to an end and thank everyone for your participation and really thoughtful comments. I think there's kind of a consensus floating around there. We just need to pull it together a little bit. And so see you in October.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.